The Bible, a cornerstone of faith and spirituality for millions, is filled with verses that inspire, comfort and guide. Genesis 19 verse 8 recounts a deeply troubling moment where Lot offers his daughters to a mob in Sodom to protect his guests. "Look, I have 2 daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you like with them." This verse raises profound questions about morality, the value of human life, and the ethics of protection and sacrifice. Lot's actions, though intended to show hospitality, are incomprehensible by today's standards. How could a father offer his daughters to be violated? This passage forces us to confront the harsh realities of ancient societal norms. The story of Lot and his daughters reflects a broader cultural context where hospitality was a sacred duty, sometimes even above family loyalty. The actions of Lot are a stark reminder of the complexities within human morality. As we unpack this verse, it's important to consider the historical and cultural backdrop of the time. This verse challenges us to think critically about how we interpret and apply ancient texts to modern ethical dilemmas. Through this verse, we begin our journey into the heart of the Bible's most controversial passages. Exodus 21, verses 20 to 21, addresses a highly sensitive topic, the treatment of slaves. If a man beats his male or female slave with a rod and the slave dies as a direct result, he must be punished. But if the slave recovers after a day or 2, he is not to be punished, since the slave is his property. This distinction between immediate death and recovery highlights the harsh realities of ancient societal norms. This verse poses challenging questions about justice, human dignity, and the morality of slavery. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable truths about how human lives were valued differently. In ancient times, slavery was an accepted institution, deeply woven into the fabric of society. It was a norm that shaped the economic and social structures of the time. The laws in Exodus were intended to regulate this practice, providing some measure of protection for slaves. These regulations, though minimal by today's standards, were seen as progressive in their time. However, by modern ethical standards, the notion that a slave could be treated as property and beaten, yet the owner would face no consequences if the slave survived, is deeply troubling. It challenges our current understanding of human rights. This passage is often cited in discussions about the Bible's stance on slavery, sparking debates on whether the text condones or merely regulates the practice. These debates continue to be relevant in theological and ethical discussions today. Understanding the historical context is crucial. It allows us to see these laws not as endorsements of slavery, but as attempts to bring some order and protection within a harsh system. In the ancient Near East, slavery was a common practice, and these laws were seen as progressive steps to mitigate the harshness of slavery. They were a reflection of the societal norms and values of that era, yet they fall far short of modern standards of human rights and dignity. The evolution of our ethical standards highlights the progress humanity has made over centuries. This verse challenges us to grapple with the ethical evolution of humanity and the ways in which our understanding of justice has transformed over millennia. It serves as a reminder of how far we have come and how far we still have to go. As we continue our journey through the Bible's most controversial verses, let us hold these questions close, always seeking to understand and to grow in our pursuit of justice and compassion. Our reflections on these ancient texts can guide us in building a more just and compassionate world. Leviticus 20, verse 13 states, "If a man has sexual relations with a man as one does with a woman, both of them have done what is detestable. They are to be put to death. Their blood will be on their own heads." This severe punishment reflects the gravity with which such acts were viewed in ancient times. This verse is one of the most contentious in discussions about LGBTQ+ rights and the interpretation of religious texts, sparking debates across various communities. For many, this verse stands as a stark symbol of exclusion and condemnation, often leading to feelings of isolation and rejection. It has been used throughout history to justify discrimination and violence against LGBTQ+ individuals, perpetuating cycles of hatred and intolerance. The harshness of the punishment prescribed here is a reflection of the ancient Israelite society's norms and values, which were vastly different from today's. The controversy surrounding this verse lies in its interpretation and application, with different groups advocating for various understandings. Some argue that it should be understood within its historical and cultural context, considering the societal norms of that era, while others believe it reflects an eternal moral truth that transcends time and culture. This tension highlights the broader debate about how religious texts should be read and understood in the modern world, especially in light of evolving social values. This verse forces us to confront the ways in which sacred texts can be used to both harm and heal, depending on their interpretation and application. It challenges us to think critically about the principles of love, justice, and compassion that lie at the heart of many religious traditions, urging us to find a balance. In contemporary religious communities, there are diverse perspectives on this verse, reflecting a wide range of beliefs and interpretations. Some view it as a call to uphold traditional moral values, seeing it as a guide for righteous living, while others see it as a historical artifact that should not dictate modern ethics, advocating for a more progressive approach. Leviticus 20, verse 13, serves as a catalyst for important conversations about faith, morality, and human dignity, encouraging ongoing dialogue and reflection. Deuteronomy 22:28-29 presents a deeply troubling scenario. If a man happens to meet a virgin who is not pledged to be married and rapes her and they are discovered, he shall pay her father 50 shekels of silver. He must marry the young woman, for he has violated her. He can never divorce her as long as he lives. This verse raises profound ethical questions about justice, consent, and the treatment of women. The idea that a woman should be forced to marry her rapist is abhorrent by modern standards. It reflects a societal context where women's autonomy and consent were often overlooked. This verse forces us to confront the harsh realities of ancient societal norms. This passage is often cited in discussions about the treatment of women in religious texts. It challenges us to think about how we interpret and apply ancient laws in a way that upholds the dignity and rights of all individuals. Understanding the historical context is essential. In ancient Israelite society, a woman's future could be severely compromised if she were violated, and this law was intended to provide some measure of protection and security. However, it falls far short of modern standards of justice and equality. Deuteronomy 22:28-29 is a sobering reminder of the moral complexities within the Bible. It calls us to reflect on our values and the ways in which we seek to uphold the inherent dignity of every human being. Judges 19:24-25 recounts a horrific event involving a concubine. "Look, here is my virgin daughter, and here is his concubine. I will bring them out to you now, and you can use them and do to them whatever you wish. But as for this man, don't do such an outrageous thing." This passage raises deeply troubling questions about violence, justice, and the treatment of women. The story of the concubine in Judges is one of the most shocking and brutal narratives in the Bible. It tells of a Levite's concubine who is offered to a mob and subsequently abused and left for dead. This verse and the events that follow force us to confront the darkest aspects of human behavior. The actions of the men in this story are incomprehensible by modern moral standards. The willingness to sacrifice women to protect men reflects a societal context where women's lives and well-being were often deemed less valuable. This passage challenges us to think critically about the historical and cultural context. In contemporary discussions, this verse often surfaces in debates about the treatment of women in religious texts. It serves as a catalyst for examining how far we've come in terms of gender equality and human rights. Judges 19:24-25 is a call to reflect on our own values and the principles we hold dear. Through this verse, we continue our journey into the heart of the Bible's most controversial passages. 1. Samuel 15:3 presents a divine command that has sparked intense debate. "Now go, attack the Amalekites and totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys." This verse raises profound questions about divine justice, morality, and the ethics of warfare. The command to annihilate an entire people, including women and children, is deeply troubling by modern standards. It challenges our understanding of justice and the nature of divine commands. How could a just and loving God command such total destruction? This passage forces us to grapple with the complexities of divine justice. In ancient times, warfare was often brutal and total, with the complete destruction of enemies seen as a way to ensure security. This verse reflects a historical context where such measures were not uncommon. However, it raises significant ethical questions for contemporary readers. The controversy surrounding this verse lies in its interpretation and application. Some argue that it should be understood within its historical and cultural context, while others believe it reflects an eternal moral truth. 1 Samuel 15:3 forces us to confront the ways in which sacred texts can be used to justify violence. It challenges us to think about the principles of justice, compassion, and the sanctity of life. This verse serves as a catalyst for important conversations about faith, morality, and human dignity. 2 Kings, February 23, 24, tells the story of Elisha and a group of boys. From there, Elisha went up to Bethel. As he was walking along the road, some boys came out of the town and jeered at him. "Get out of here, Baldy," they said. "Get out of here, Baldy." They mocked him repeatedly, showing no respect for his position or age. He turned around, looked at them, and called down a curse on them in the name of the Lord. Then 2 bears came out of the woods and mauled 42 of the boys. This sudden and violent response was unexpected and terrifying. This passage is both shocking and controversial, raising questions about justice, punishment, and the nature of divine intervention. It forces readers to confront uncomfortable truths about the severity of divine retribution. The idea that a group of boys could be mauled by bears for mocking a prophet is deeply unsettling. It challenges our modern sensibilities and our understanding of proportional punishment. It challenges our understanding of justice and the appropriate response to wrongdoing. How do we balance the scales of justice in such a scenario? How can we reconcile this story with the image of a loving and merciful God? This question has puzzled theologians and believers for centuries. This verse forces us to grapple with the complexities of divine justice. It compels us to think deeply about the nature of divine will and human actions. In ancient times, the role of prophets was seen as sacred and inviolable, and any disrespect towards them was considered a grave offense. Prophets were the mouthpieces of God, and their honor was closely guarded. This passage reflects a historical context where divine retribution for such offenses was seen as just and necessary. It was a time when divine authority was absolute and unquestionable. However, it raises significant ethical questions for contemporary readers. How do we interpret such a harsh response in today's world? The controversy surrounding this verse lies in its interpretation and application. Different perspectives offer varied insights into its meaning. Some argue that it should be understood within its historical and cultural context, while others believe it reflects an eternal moral truth. The debate continues to this day. 2 Kings, February 23, 24, forces us to confront the ways in which sacred texts can be used to justify harsh punishments. It serves as a reminder of the power and responsibility that comes with interpreting Holy Scriptures. It challenges us to think about the principles of justice, compassion, and the sanctity of life. How do we balance these principles in our daily lives? This verse serves as a catalyst for important conversations about faith, morality, and human dignity. It encourages us to engage in meaningful dialogue and reflection. Let us continue to seek wisdom and understanding, always striving to build a more inclusive and just world. Through these discussions, we can hope to find a path that honors both our faith and our shared humanity. If you found this video useful, please share your experiences in the comments below and subscribe to our channel. Also, don't go just yet, though. Watch the next video on your screen.